I'm going to suggest this actually is a video journal that, as well, is a hypothetical attempt to capture content that I would consider posting to the Brian May Facebook page within the subcolumn that I wrote upon August 22nd of the year 2020. About a month and a half ago, I woke one morning and I decided that morning that I was that I really didn't want to make coffee that morning. Not actually. And within the past month and 3/4, I have not had a single drop of coffee, with not actually, with exception of this, my second pot of coffee upon the second occasion of a particular day. I was I was feeling really stressed out, though. Yesterday morning, I awoke with a terrible hangover, man, and was hungover all day. I'm feeling hungover all day yesterday, as well today. Still, definitely aware of that feeling of a lack of comfort. And so, just decided to make a pot of coffee. Huh. I'm feeling a lot better. A whole lot better. Maya Gallicos. Mm. I I attribute that. Well, I sort of determined that the aware of feeling of lack of comfort was a combination of stress as well as, more specifically, concern. And there was a mixture of a feeling of like mental fatigue. And so, considering that throughout the past 20 years, I've had at least a single pot of coffee each day of those 20 years. And within the past 10 years, more like 3 or 4 pots of coffee each day. I, I'm Mayan. Actually, what various Americans would probably term Indian or Native American, or historically documented, final word, savages. And I just sort of put myself to actually get really serious about proving the fact that I am considerably intelligent, in fact. And if people watch this video, then it's important to actually include citation about my documented social media posts within the forums of Facebook and Twitter. My name actually is Jason Scott Hughes. I'm one of the guys that's variably locatable with regard my page being written of myself and reflecting my suggestions amidst context of the name Jason Hughes. All right. And I, in fact, am 100% aware that I might be the most intelligent human being within the documented human history. And I have a head size, sort of typical to the Mayan head size, considerably large within a contrasted compare of the typical head size of white Americans, for goddamn sure. And my head size actually is 23 and a half inches in circumference, whereas the typical white American head size actually is about 17 inches. There are various people that will be able to contextually access this video post within the Brian May Facebook page and the subcolumn that I wrote in the Brian May Facebook page today. And they're aware of context and why I would emphasize the most recent suggestion. All right. Amongst the probable audience of people that might even sit and watch this video actually is various employees of the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America, the British MI6 perhaps, the Russian government. I live in the state of Oklahoma. And there are other other people within that hypothetically potential audience as well. All right. So I actually have been sitting and considering this particular video journal or video post for probably about hours. Yeah, and you can look that up in the English language. That actually is an English word. English dictionary. I'm an occultist. English dictionary. Dua. Look it up. Right. Yeah, I study a lot of languages as well as being considerably adept at math and science. And I really consider myself an artist, sort of. Uh, I'm just considering various things, and there's actually a point. I've been sitting and rehearsing this particular video post for a while. I want to give you a forward suggestion, all right? If you're one of those people that is aware that, yeah, Jason Hughes actually is a considerate and reasonable guy, sort of often. He's got good sentiments and that sort of thing. There might be a point in this video wherein you might realize that it's cool, Hughes. It's cool, though. There are other people that might find this sort of more pertinent to them and their need to know, sort of, and you can just stop the video. Yeah, and that's totally cool, man. Totally cool. All right, I'm not trying to seem stressed out, and if you want to watch, you can watch. All right, yeah. Though there's a planned context of content that will be put into this video. All right, sort of reasonable, though. I decided that the content would include that up front because I didn't want it to seem stressful when it happens. Not actually. All right, like, and they like think about watching it again. I'm sort of considerate of people, man, especially cool people. I like cool people. Yeah, you're all right. Yeah, and you're just like, all right. It's totally cool. So, within the past almost 2 months, I've actually been sitting and drinking a lot of water each day as well. It's good for me, man. And it really sort of helped. Like, I mean, sitting and drinking coffee for 20 years, that much coffee, all day long. Like, I was thinking, the habit, and I need water anyway. And now I like drinking water, though I'm really sort of proud of myself to limit my coffee ingestion that much as well. I've been actually feeling great most of the time, though recently I reprised my video. Oh, recently I reprised my social media. writing. And it just sort of stressed me out because I was actually already finished. Though something important came up. Sort of important, man. Yeah. So I needed to, yeah. Whew. And I'm glad I got through that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, though, I was considering things. And my sentiments and things. I have good sentiments for people, alright? Yeah, about various things that I actually suggested in context about a bunch of contexts and various other things that are really specific in context of what I am considering. Alright? And it's like, oh. And the thought of those white American cop types, yeah, that are aware of what I wrote. Them getting a little bit contextually uncomfortable themselves was really humorous to me, man. It was. Though I was thinking about things as well, and I figured, it's not as probable that upon reading my recent point that they would get contextually uncomfortable, not actually as much as that's a consideration to me because of my sentiments, man. Oh, I as well want to make a contextual note to specifically make note that I wrote within the Hassan Huez Twitter profile about the potential of programming a query program that references people's written social media posts, for an example, and sort of resembles a polygraph test within a context of its function. It evaluates various things about various people's comments remotely. And it's a concept, and I was actually really serious about the concept. And it's just variably sort of context. So, I figured to mention that I typically do not smoke cigarettes within my office. Not actually. Though, I have decided that I will allow myself to smoke cigarettes within my office while I record this video. Huh. So cool. This actually is sort of really cool. This actually is a toy that I purchased in the context that I was a kid. It sits on my desk. It's sort of neat. One of my favorite little things. Sort of an important thing, sort of significant to me. There are a lot of people that I've met throughout my life that I actually thought were really cool people. I liked them quite a lot. They were friends within my past. They were barely acquaintances that I just was sort of aware were sort of cool people. Yeah, cool people. In fact, reasonable. I wanted to make this point. I wrote my social media profiles with deliberate intent for the people that don't really have much interest or not as contextually applicable to helpful or requisite, variably, because there are various people that the probable types of people within the American sociological context of what I figured was reasonable mapping of the various demographics of different types of people. That, yeah, I mean, they're. See, I wanted to incite them to not really take much interest within my social media writings, not actually. Because I figured there were other people that would take interest within my social media posts. And various people that wouldn't necessarily read through my social media profiles, wouldn't necessarily take interest. And if they did take a particular amount of interest and then decide that they didn't want to read further, not actually, and then realize that there were complex things about quite a lot of that content, and they realized that and they started reading through it, and then they sort of just wanted to suggest that they didn't even really like that, not actually, being concise, and they're not necessarily gonna suggest so considerately, not actually, and they're considerate enough that they wouldn't accost me about it or say anything about it, not actually, all right, because that sort of showed plausible uh, within observed context, within the sociological environment, within the state, and of reflected in people's posts, what they did talk about, what they didn't talk about, and so forth. And they might even suggest, sort of uncomfortably or conveniently, don't really like him. Actually, rather talk about something else would be something that they might not even suggest, actually. All right, because of the company and so forth. All right, but well, the people that they talk with and that sort of thing, more specifically. And that's actually all right. That doesn't make them bad people. There are a lot of, well, considering the percentage of the population that actually has a college education, and this actually is inclusive within a particular column that I wrote, within a particular Facebook profile that I wrote. It's like, okay, so various people read. Various people want me to get to the point. I'm considered about their tendencies. Okay? And I think it's sort of important to actually allow me to, or watch me allow myself to articulate what I mean, because I have the opportunity to articulate words, and there's a point about that. All right? Yeah, my Red Hawk music really sort of raised a lot more practical in style, but then he tries to compare of my writing style. Wow. Well, I think I applied a point. What? Various conjectures really sort of entertain me. Conjectures, probabilities, or perhaps less likely. Well, still are humorous, like the big advertisement, Jason Hughes, the smartest man in the world. Huh. Sort of humorous to me. Pi has a pattern. Oh wow, impressive. There are various people that are not totally cool, not actually. And I wouldn't necessarily like them, not actually, while it doesn't mean that I really consider them as shitty as they wish to depict themselves, considering the global population and onto context of deliberate tolerable and personal allowance of suggestion. Huh. There are reasons about things. Extent of reason. Oh wow. What's in it for me? Huh. What really is criminal insanity was actually always an implicit implication. Alright, America? What really is corruption? Dumb. Realizing with regard my own intention to convey what I wish to actually convey, I'll suggest a bit concisely within this context. How many people forgot what was sort of implicit of the context? Hmm? Huh. All right, so anyway. And then there are those people, and they're cool, I guess. I guess, watch. I think about people that I think are sort of cool, man. Sort of cool. watch anyway, I guess. Nobody's working these days for some reason. Uh-oh. So, yeah, I'm sort of not gonna rush this context. Not actually. Alright. There are various things that I won't get real explicit about. Not actually, with regard what I considered is sort of hypothetically probable or inclusive of probabilities. While in particular, conjecture, all right, and I really don't like to use the word musings within the context, not actually, just because. Huh. And various different people might have their own perspectives about that sort of thing that was variably sort of observable when they considered my social media writings. Consider it modest, not boastful, malicious, variably, deceitful, admittedly. Like, why would you typically avoid usage of on-term context of word that concludes with T and appends with the letters IS specifically, consistently? Variably protective. And various suggestions actually are variably not really redundant, not actually. inclusive context of consideration about what other people might consider within an intelligent context of the author of suggestions. And quite the contrast to compare of slightest level of consideration of various, notably, definitely, could not be argued applicable to suggestion of selfish, not at all, when it comes right down to it. Huh. And it's variably probable that a hypothetical shrink that were decided to look at this that wanted to suggest the contextual sort of thing was implicit probability. Wouldn't the retard like those words within the context? Of a person that suffers of what could be suggested schizophrenia. Huh. And I was thinking about the fact that I was recently finished writing my social media posts and profiles. And my variably practiced tendency to sit and write, which as well was especially context of an outline that has been in the context of development for the course of 20 years of private writings. Put together to an outline. Did you forget? One of the things that I might work on is writing to eventually and inevitably guarantee that the remaining 10% of people subjected to psychiatric abuse would as well be sort of considered. Within a context of the 90% of people subjected to psychiatric abuse, that were implicitly proved victims of abuse, senseless abuse. And finally, there would be an absolute